Hey everybody! Today we are going to check out the Garmin RV 870. Now, this is an RV specific GPS for your vehicle, right? So it's a dash mounted GPS module. And if you didn't know that there was such a thing, well, you're in for a treat because Garmin does make a GPS module specific to RV travelers and larger vehicles. And if you've had one of these in the past, you're kind of familiar with Garmin, you know what they can do in your car. But if you didn't know this already, they do make versions that are going to be tailored to larger vehicles, towable vehicles, motorhomes, that sort of stuff. And we're going to get into a little bit about what those can do for you. And we're going to get into a little bit of the differences, and I'm going to review it and give you a comparison to a traditional navigation system, GPS system, and all that. So stay tuned. All that's coming up right after this. So one of the things that I wanted to get into a little bit before I get this thing out of the box and show you some actual action footage of the thing in use is a big problem that I have with a larger RV is the routes. And if you rely on things like Google Maps or Waze or your Apple Maps, which I believe is TomTom, you can run into situations where they run you down some narrow streets or they run you down routes that aren't designed for larger vehicles. And that's great unless you're in an actual, 30-foot plus vehicle hooked up to a towable or a motorhome and that sort of thing. And then it's not so great. Or the low clearances. I've been on roads before where I've come up on a bridge and I'm just too tall to fit under it. So one of the nice features about a device like this is that it has route warnings. And I'm going to put that to the test, but it is nice to have that option because as I'm making this video today, Google Maps doesn't offer you an option like that. You can't say, I have a large vehicle, please don't run me down roads that allow for that. So that's a positive. I'm excited to see what it can do. This thing also does RV parks, RV services, and suggested attractions, and it'll do traffic, of course. And you can integrate it with backup cameras if you care about all that. Honestly, I'm more interested in the routing and the RV attractions and the RV parks. So a typical trip for us would be something like this. We have a destination in mind. It may take us 2 or 3 days to get there. And somewhere near 2/3 of the way through the day on day 1 or 2 or 3, I will say to my wife, hey, let's pull open a map and let's find RV campgrounds or parks within the next 30, 40 miles, 50 miles, basically within the next hour, okay? And that involves pulling out a phone and doing some Googling, or maybe pulling out the Good Sam book and looking through the equivalent of a Yellow Pages for state-by-state kind of listing and town-by-town listing. And if you own an RV, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So what I'm hoping to eliminate with this device is that search, that I can just pull them up on here and see where they are based on my route, and then we can check them out. So it's basically a more efficient way to find our destination. All right, so one of the very first things you need to do when you get a device like this, not just an RV-specific device, but really any device like this, is when you pop it out of the box here, okay, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to hook it up to your computer right there, and you're going to want to update the maps. Now, with Garmin, they have a Garmin Express app. I've already got it installed. I use it a lot, and it's going to basically detect this device when I plug it in, and then it's going to go download those updates, and it's going to ask me from my computer if I want to install those updates. Very first thing you need to do, just because who knows how long this thing's been sitting in the box. Also in the box, you get Garmin's power supply, 12 volt DC power supply, which typically they do use to send traffic data. This has an antenna in it also for signal. So it is kind of important that you use their cable, even though it is just a typical mini USB connector. There are some advantages, I should say, to using theirs. You get the suction cup mount, and then you get your computer cable here, and then you get their little swivel adapter mount, and of course a manual in the very bottom. So we're going to get this thing hooked up, and I'll show you the update process quickly, and then we'll take it from there. Alright, so I decided to go ahead and plug this thing into a power supply, and it is walking me through setup on screen. So I'm going to go with the United States. Of course, it's touchscreen. We're going to accept that. And then it's going to say, hey, you got to get the Garmin Drive mobile app to access additional features. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. We'll be right back after I go through those steps. Alright, so I've got the Garmin Drive app on my phone. I'm going to set that up first. And we're going to go with a navigation device. Now we're going to pair. And it's searching for my device. There it is. Found it in the background right here. We're going to say OK. And I'm going to allow it to pair. And we're going to agree to this. And over here I already have a Garmin account, so I'm going to go ahead and sign into that. Alright, so I'm signed in. I don't want this thing showing notifications from my phone, so we're going to skip that for now. Yeah, I don't want that showing up either. Alright, so of course we have device updates, but I'm not going to do that from my phone. I'm going to do it from my computer. So we are done from here. Now we're going to connect it back to my computer. Alright, so the next step here, actually I don't have to connect it to my computer. This one is new enough that it will just jump straight on my Wi-Fi. So I'm going to go ahead and add it to my Wi-Fi and let it update itself. Alright, got my Wi-Fi password in, going to hit done. It's going to connect. It's going to warn me that there are stupid people in the world, and I'm going to tell it what kind of vehicle we have here. And in my case, it's a motorhome with a trailer. And I know that my height is 13 feet 3 inches. Alright, so my width is 8 feet. We're going to go with that. And it's going to be close to 60. I'm going to just go ahead and put 60 feet. Alright, we're going to go with that, and we're going to see if this guy will do an update. Yep. So we're just going to let this whole thing cook and come back and check it later. I will just tell it to install all. And we'll check back. 65 south toward Huntsville. We've been using this GPS now for the weekend, and we've had a chance to take a 400-mile trip with it and back. And there's a lot of things that I really like about it compared to our previous Garmin GPS that we used. It was just an automobile GPS. And one of the things that I like that is an improvement is Garmin now uses your smartphone, and it will pair over Bluetooth with your smartphone for things like traffic updates, and you can also do map updates that way. And it's easier to me, and I think a better option than the old way of using the HD radio signals to try and get live traffic or updates. So that's definitely a positive. I do like the option to make certain routes, like we're pretty heavy, and if I tell it like, hey, I don't want to go over routes that won't allow me over a certain weight, it'll eliminate that. There's some nice things that it does that I didn't have with my old one. It'll give me up ahead options. It'll ask me if I'm tired and I need a break. It'll pop some things up there. I can look at traffic data also. I've got a whole lot of options kind of at a glance on the right hand side here. And up ahead, phone, elevation. One of the things that I discovered kind of by accident is weather radar. And it'll give me weather data based on where I am, which is really helpful if I've got a storm that I'm traveling through or around me that I'm trying to avoid. A common thing that we would do in previous family RV trips is we'd get towards the end of the day and we'd say, hey, let's pull out the Good Sam book or whatever and let's try to find a campground. Well, this GPS has built into it not only campgrounds, but RV services. So let's say, for example, we're overnighting for a couple nights and we need to find a dump station or a place that has dump stations. It will let us look that up on the GPS, and we can even do it along our current route. Let me show you how that works. All right, so to look up services, I'm literally just gonna hit the back button on my route, and I'm gonna go to apps, and we're gonna go to let's try it again. We're going to go to where to, and we're going to go plan RV services. And here you've got dump stations, truck stops, mobile services, and I can tell it I want a dump station. And it's going to give me stuff close by, but then I can tell it to do it along my active route. And that's going to keep, if there are any results, it's going to keep them. It's going to keep the results close by to my current route. That other scenario that we talked about a little bit ago where it's towards the end of the day and you're looking for a place to stop, also in this same menu where you can search for services, I can just say all campgrounds, all right? And one of the nice things is if I don't like just stuff that's close by, I can say, well, show me on my actual route, and this is going to give me everything along the way, and I can kind of go down. Now, I don't have a long route set here, but it would let me just kind of drill down. And if the further away they are, if they're 20 miles away, then they're going to be down further in the list. So that is a nice feature. And then you can drill into each one and you can get information on them and possibly contact info if it's listed. So you could call, for example, call the campground. It shows you the total number of sites and the kinds of hookups and amenities that they have. Some really nice features built into this. They've got their contact info. There's their phone number. So again, just really quick and convenient for a co-pilot to do this for you when you're looking for a place to stop. So overall, I really do like this GPS module. I have used quite a few. Most recently, a couple Garmin modules similar to this, but made for cars. They're 2 or 3 years old. The upgraded tech in this is really nice. The screen is a lot better. The cell phone integration for real-time data is great, as I mentioned. Something that it doesn't do very well that I wish it did, and I'm going to compare it to things most of us are familiar with, Waze and Google Maps. Both of them offer real-time, almost crowd-sourced information. That can be hazards, road hazards, objects on the road, potholes, bad weather, flooding, any kind of road conditions. Speed traps are another one. While I'm not in the habit of speeding in an RV, it does happen sometimes that you go through a town where there's a sudden speed change you don't know about. I mean, they're called traps for a reason. So this particular Garmin RV unit does not offer the capability to report any of those crowdsourced data pieces of information, and I wish it did, especially since they're able to use your cellular data in the sense that it's paired to your phone. I would think there would be a way for them to figure that out, but as of right now, I couldn't find it. I don't think it's available. All right, everybody, that is just about it. In closing, I want to say a couple things. First of all, I do really like this GPS unit. If you own an RV of any type, it doesn't have to be a motorhome, it can be a towable. This is a really good GPS unit. If you're in the market for a travel-minded GPS unit that can show you campgrounds, national parks, RV services, this is the way to go. We'll put a link to it in the comments. Make sure you check that out. Also, if this video has been helpful to you, please consider smashing that like button, giving us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel to get notified when we have more great videos like this, and make sure to check out our website. You'll find information there on things like our podcast, and that is at partscounterguru.com. Again, thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you soon.